Okay, here's a quick tutorial. I'm going to say quick, hopefully it will be, on actions. Actions can be kind of tricky, but they can also be a lot of fun. I guess it just depends on how much you want to put into a flip chart. But here's one where, in this one, this is where they have to work on subject-verb agreement when there's a prepositional phrase that comes between the subject and the verb, which can sometimes confuse them. For instance, here, this monument of the Druids remains a puzzle. Now, monument remains. If they can get rid of the prepositional phrase, they can see it more clearly. So here they would have to say the subject and the verb in order to find it, and then they would click on this little button here, and everything else but the subject and verb disappears, and then they can see if they were right. So they would come to the board, they would say, monument remains, and then they would click this, and that's all that's left. Monument remains. You click it again, and it comes back. So it's real simple. And I want to show you how to create an action that can make something hide when you click on it, like that. See, and all of them do that. And it's really not hard. All right, so I'm going to go back over here to the tutorial flip chart that I've been making. And I already have up here a sentence. This monument of the Druids remains a puzzle. One thing I want to show you that I did here, and it's important that you do this as well. Make sure I have it on my selection. Whenever I typed in my sentence, you have to make sure that you have two different text boxes. One is going to be for what I want to keep and not hide. Monument remains, which is my subject and verb. And I have another one that is all the other words that I'm going to want to disappear. You have to have them in two separate text boxes. Don't have each of these in a separate text box. If I click on this, you can see it. As you can see, this of the Druids, a puzzle, is one text box, and monument remains is another. And you have to kind of play with the spacing a little bit till you get it just right. And I'll show you. Put on select, and then I'm going to move it up into place. And to get it just right so the students can't see it very quickly, it might be just a little bit off. And if you have it on select when you're trying to move it around, then you can go to your arrow buttons. The arrow buttons on your keypad, you can move it down step by step. So I'll select this, and then I can move it into place to get it lined up just right. And I think that looks pretty good, and I'm happy with it. I'll save it. Okay, so I have my sentence set up, and I have it's all in the two separate text boxes like I want. Now I want to put a shape outside of here. So what I'm going to do, okay, and to make a shape, all you have to do, you can go into the properties browser, I'm sorry, not the properties browser, the resource browser, and they'll have shapes in there. You can come in your tools, if you remember when we did shapes earlier. Where are my shapes on here? When I move this to the bottom, oh, here it is. You can pick one of these shapes. It doesn't really matter what kind of shape you choose. I'm going to pick out this little star here. And I'm just going to put that right there. Okay. So now I have my shape. This is what I want to create an action for. I want to be able to click on this and make something happen. Make an action associated with clicking on this. So now, if you remember up here in your browsers, you have this little spinning top, and that's the action browser. I want to click on that. I have to come in and I have to select my shape that I want to create the action for. So now, all of these actions are my choices for what I want to go with this shape. So I'm going to go into Hidden, which is right here. I'm going to select Hidden. Now, I have to now show what I want to hide whenever I click on it. So then I'm going to go in down at the bottom here. It says Target, and there's three little dots in this box, and I'm going to open that up. Alright, so now if I look here, I've got three different text boxes, and to pick the text box I want, I select on it, and here in this box it'll show me. This text box 5 says monuments remain. Well, I don't want to hide that. That's what I want to show that is left. So then I'm going to go in text box 6, and it says this of the Druids, a puzzle. Those are all the other words, and those are the ones that I want to hide. So that's what I want to select. So I'm going to say OK. And now this is extremely important, because if you don't do this, it will not work. On actions, after you get that selected, you must hit apply changes. Okay? And then it's done. Now to be able to test it out to see if it works, all you have to do, you have to first come in here under Edit, and you need to make sure it's not in design mode. Here it's not in design mode, so now I can test it out. So the Monument of the Druids remains a puzzle. I click on, you see now when you hover over it, there's this little arrow that pops up. That means there's an action associated with it. So when I click on it, everything else disappears. Click on it again and it comes back. And you would do that for each sentence. And that is how you make an action.